Hello, Olympics and Paralympics fans, and welcome to another history episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. I am your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, good day. How are
Good
you?
day. I went kayaking this weekend
Ooh.
and did not see any sharks.
Oh, well, that's good. What river or pond did you kayak in?
I was in the Saugatuck River. I didn't even see a fish. But as I was paddling, I thought of our triathletes that we talked about last time going, yeah, no sharks here. I think I'm okay. And I didn't drown too, which we've
Oh,
talked
well,
about before,
that's
my
good.
fear of
That's
drowning.
good.
So all worked out
Did
quite
you
well.
did you stay in the boat the whole time?
I did.
Very good. Very proud of you.
Thank you. And I had to wear shoes.
I was just going to ask you, shoes or no shoes?
I wanted to be barefoot, but the place where we got the boat said, no, you have to wear shoes. And I was very upset about this. I said, I know Olympians and they don't wear shoes. But I didn't do that because I want to go back and be able to go to this place again.
Well, I'm glad you had a good time.
That was
Excellent.
great.
Correction to the record. Last week, I believe I put Snoop Dogg on NBC's coverage under LA 2028 news, and he will be at Milano Cortina 2026 instead. I would not be surprised if I was foreshadowing the 2028.
I think it was just crystal ball. But this does lead to the segment, and we talked about this in our Facebook group, that you have Snoop and Stanley Tucci working together with the
Hopefully.
idea of we know what Snoop is famous for, and it's not rap music. And you do tend to get a little hungry, and Stanley Tucci can take care of that.
Yes. So, Snoop will be on your screens in a few months. Maybe also he'll be on your screens in a few years at LA 2028 too. But back to history, and this year we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Sydney 2000 Games by looking back at some of the many stories that come from those Olympics and Paralympics. October is the official anniversary month of the Paralympics. Those ran from October 18th through 29. So I have a story about the Paralympics, and I thought it'd be good to start with that and celebrate
Excellent.
the anniversary of those games. And I love blind football.
You do love when they clank on the
Oh my gosh, I
goalpost.
love the visualizing or spatializing the goalpost section. But it used to be called football five-a-side. Well, Sydney did not have football five-a-side. They did not have blind football. They had seven-a-side football, which is cerebral palsy football or CP football.
Interesting.
Yes, and
Okay.
that is a sport for athletes with cerebral palsy or other neurological disorders like traumatic brain injuries or strokes. It's on a smaller field than a standard soccer field. Other rule differences from able-bodied football are 30-minute halves, smaller goalposts, no offsides, and if the ball goes out of bounds, players can throw or roll the ball back into play. Football seven-a-side debuted at the Paralympics in 1984, and Belgium was the first Paralympic champion. But then, apropos to your recent newsletter about how the Dutch women crush it in wheelchair tennis and wheelchair basketball, the Netherlands became the dominant team in football seven-a-side, and they won the gold in 88, 92, and 96. So they are gunning for gold medal number 4. However, in 2000, the Netherlands team roster saw a massive turnover. Just 4 of the 11 men on the roster, also men only sport, just like blind football is today. 4 of the 11 men on the roster were returning from 1996. That included 3-time gold medalists Arno de Jong and Jaap de Vries. Percy Enzer joined the team for 1992 and beyond, and Rudy van Bremen was returning from 1996. And then they also had 1988 gold medalist Wilfried Hennig came back to the team for 2000. So yeah, a big span of time off, and he was back. It did not go well.
Oh, no.
Yes. The Netherlands roster trended older. They and Spain had more players born in the 1960s than any other team. Jaap de Vries, who was the second oldest player at the tournament, would celebrate his 35th birthday during the Sydney Paralympics. So the tournament had 8 teams split into 2 groups. Each team played 3 group games, and then they had knockout rounds pitted the like standings against each other. So Netherlands lost 2 games, and they had a 0-0 tie with Portugal. That dismal record put them at the bottom of the group standings and into the 7th and 8th place game against host Australia, who had one of the youngest teams in the tournament.
Which makes sense in a way
Yeah.
because probably with host countries, a lot of times they're starting teams they haven't had before because you get that host.
Right,
Um,
like, we talked with, Molly Quinn
yes, about
about,
how the US is going to have entries in LA that they've never had before.
right, so they're building their own blind football team now. So, 7th and 8th place game, Australia beats the Netherlands 2-1. It's Australia's only win of the entire tournament, sending Netherlands from gold to the bottom of the rankings
Oh
in the span
no.
of 1 game. So, if Netherlands was out, who was in? Would it be reigning silver medalist Russia or reigning bronze medalist Spain? Well, Russia and Spain were in the same group, so that makes it tough for Spain. Spain had a 1-1 tie with Brazil. They beat Australia 1-0. Russia had a 2-2 tie with Brazil and beat Australia 3-0. So when Russia and Spain met, you'd think it'd be fairly even, but Russia crushed Spain 3-0, and that set Spain into the 5th, 6th place game against Argentina. Argentina won 5-2.
You know what I love? Whenever we talk about football, no matter what kind of football it is, Brazil is there.
Right.
Women's 5-a-side, 7-a-side, they don't care. You will find Brazil in that tournament.
So, Brazil is now in the semifinals. They are pitted against Ukraine. Ukraine won Group A, and Brazil was 2nd place in Group B. And then the other semifinal is Portugal and Russia. Russia winning Group B and Portugal coming 2nd in Group A. Russia beats Portugal 3-1, so they are going to go for the gold. Ukraine and Brazil, they had a pretty lopsided match. Ukraine had 16 shots on goal. Brazil only had 6. Brazil had 10 fouls and 1 yellow card. Brazil had 6 fouls. Yet the score at the end of regulation was 1-1. However, in extra time, Volodymyr Kabanov scored the winning goal for Ukraine. Ukraine goes to the gold medal match.
You know what I love about this year in particular, talking about Sydney, is I'm realizing what an incredible history that Ukraine has at the Paralympics. I feel like
Yes.
we say Ukraine every single show.
We do. They have a long tradition, and sadly, it's gonna be even more so with the war that's going on because we know that war creates Paralympians. So the medal matches take place on the final day of the games. Bronze medal match is first. It's at 10 a.m. in the morning. Decent weather, partly cloudy, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius. Beautiful day. Portugal struck first when Nuno Germano scored in the 20th minute. Brazil's Luciano Rocha tied it up in minute 35. Brazil kept the fouls down this time. They committed just 5 to Portugal's 8, and they were making way more shots on goal than Portugal, but nothing's going in until the 59th minute when Luciano Rocha scores again, giving Brazil the win right at the end of the game.
And unlike blind football, when you've got a team, Portugal and Brazil, speaking the same language, the trash talk of this must have been fantastic.
Gold medal match is directly after at 12:30. Sun's come out. It's warmed up a couple degrees, so we are having a perfect day for our football final and also a perfect day for closing ceremonies, to be quite honest. Ukraine decked out in their blue and yellow. Russia is in all white. We've got the 2 best teams in the tournament. They are ready for a showdown, and this was an evenly matched showdown.
And also probably some really good trash talk,
I would
'cause a lot
imagine.
of
I would
Ukrainians
imagine.
speak Russian as well, so
Right,
yeah.
and it's an interesting kind of period in time because the Soviet Union has fallen, and we are ahead of Vladimir Putin is pretty new as a prime minister. He's come up in this podcast series before, but he's relatively new, and we are several years away from their first invasions into Crimea. So we're in this kind of, is it peaceful time?
I think it was they didn't know what their relationship was going to look like,
It could be.
but I still think there was great trash talk.
So we have evenly matched. This is what you want in a football match. 14th minute, Russia's Mamuk Jimishashvili. He scores the first goal of the game on a penalty kick. 8 minutes later, Andrei Rostoka ties it up for Ukraine. 2 minutes after that, Volodymyr Kabanov comes back. He's putting Ukraine ahead, and they're leading at the half. 2-1 Ukraine. Then Russia comes back. Jimishashvili is on a mission. He scores in the 37th minute to tie it up. And then 2 minutes later, he scores the go-ahead goal.
It's a lot of scoring.
It is a lot of scoring. Russia holds off Ukraine for the final 20-plus minutes, and they get the gold medal. Score is 3-2, Russia. They win gold. Silver goes to Ukraine. Bronze goes to Brazil. Russia's Jimishtarshvili and Ukraine's Kabanov tied for the most goals scored during the tournament with 7 each. And those two teams continued to dominate the sport from there on out. Ukraine won gold at Athens 2004. They beat Russia for gold in Beijing 2008. They met again in the final at London 2012. This time Russia won. And the final games for CP football was Rio 2016, and Ukraine won the final gold there.
Do we know why it went away?
We do. Thank you very much.
Hey, we've been working together for a while. Let me tee you up.
So yeah, football 7-a-side was dropped after Rio 2016, partly because the women's game was not developed, partly for cost reasons, and partly because the IPC would have had to reduce male athlete quotas in other sports. And Andrew Parsons said that would have meant that high support needs athletes would have lost slots, and that would go against the organization's guiding principles. So, and by this time, blind football was already in the Paralympics. So you had two footballs going against each other, and blind football was smaller as well. So you had 5-a-side versus 7-a-side, two football events.
And no women in
and
either.
no women in either. Yes, exactly. So the International Federation of Cerebral Palsy Football keeps trying to get back into the games. And about a month ago, they announced the appointment of Kat Hicks as its new director of the Brisbane 2032 Paralympic campaign. And Kat will be heading up the drive to get back into the games.
Interesting.
Yeah, that they've hired this person specifically.
Well, the IPC does not do what the Olympics does in the host gets to pick an extra sport. They don't have that getting new things in the same way.
I would say yes and no, because I mean, LA picked sport climbing. It's just that new sports don't seem to get added to the Paralympics as much. And I know that sports want to get in or get back in, because sailing is also in the same boat. They want to get back in. But it seems like, not to throw shade at hosts, but it seems like adding sports to the Paralympics is not a priority.
Fair.
So, and maybe they're like, by this time, we don't have the budget, or how much more can we do? But we'll see, because I mean, the IPC just kind of retroactively approved the Sport Climbing Federation for a recognized federation for the Paralympics. So we'll see what happens.
More football would make the Brazilians happy.
It would, and it would make Brisbane 2032 more special, I would say. So you've got a story, but I will tease that after your story, we have got the results from our vote, because it's time to choose next year's games that we will cover, and we've got the winner.
And it was as close as that gold medal match.
Yes, exactly. So, what do you got for us?
I have such a different story than yours. So I'm going to talk about some of the advertising that was happening, particularly during the Olympics. So let's start, and we're talking mostly in the US because there was some wild stuff going on TV in the US in 2000. So back then, television network NBC paid $705 million for the broadcast rights for the Sydney 2000 Olympics, part of a larger $3.5 billion deal with the IOC. It, I don't even want to think about these numbers. And production costs for the Olympics reached about 125 million. Not to worry, NBC sold $900 million worth of advertising.
Whoa. Wow.
A 30-second commercial cost about $615,000. Of course, things vary depending on day and time. And some
I will
ex
say, can I just say, like, if you're an advertiser out there, a commercial will cost much less on this podcast.
and remember, this is all in $2,000,
Right.
2000 year
That's
dollars. I have not adjusted anything for what it would be worth now. And some experts in the advertising world really thought NBC should have charged more for their 30-second advertising. They
holy
thought they
cow.
undersold.
Wow, and I know this wasn't part of the equation, but I'm curious what a Super Bowl ad would have cost at that same before and after, because, of course, we had this huge sporting event, and Super Bowl probably still had some ad time available.
I know in the things that I read, NBC was very concerned because they wouldn't be showing a lot of stuff live. And even though we didn't have social media or a huge internet presence at the time, evening news was still reporting winners at 5, 6 o'clock. So by the time you got to prime time, if you didn't specifically not watch the news, not pay attention, you were spoiled for the winners. And that was a big difference, obviously, from Atlanta, where most of prime time was live. So I think that's why they were concerned about how they were pricing the 30-second ads.
Yeah, and now if you get spoiled, there are a lot of people like me who, okay, I know what the result is. How did they get that result? I wanna see what happened, especially if it was a surprise result.
Right, because 'cause we're in such a different time now. Because now you almost expect to know who the winner is before you watch. Like, that's just part of the sports culture now. In 2000, being spoiled was like, what's the point of watching?
Right.
So, who was buying all those ads? Well, major Olympic sponsors at the time, like McDonald's and Coca-Cola, were in on it. Coca-Cola launched its Taste the Feeling campaign, which included ads, and we're gonna have links to this in the show note because it's so much fun going back and watching these 25-year-old ads. It featured a bus trip across an outback-like landscape, a soda-fueled evening at a drive-in movie. So you take the bus, you bring the bus to the drive-in, and you're drinking Coca-Cola the
Okay.
whole time.
Sounds like a good night to me.
I know, I'm like, "Bring on the," and they didn't even weren't even advertising Diet Coke, and I was in. This was fun. McDonald's created a 2000 Olympic Games big book and calendar, and their ad featured McDonald's characters, including Ronald McDonald, Grimace, and the Hamburglar racing into the fast food restaurant to get the book. Now, if you are younger than, say, 35, you may not know who Grimace and Hamburglar is, who they are. Please go watch this commercial and you will fall in love with Grimace.
And if you have one of these big books lying around, like, share pictures, please.
There were stickers, there were coloring pages. It was great. I mean, if I were a kid in 2000, I would have absolutely wanted this big book and calendar because it had the dates of all the events. It was pretty fantastic. Did a nice job. USOC, no P in this point, sponsors Adidas and Buick also bought spots. Adidas featured athletes from all different sports like gymnastics, swimming, and high jump attempting to saddle and ride horses.
Okay.
It sounds crazy, but it was actually a really fantastic ad. And golfer Tiger Woods, who has never competed in the Olympics, started an ad for Buick where he tries to use his golf club as a javelin, a fencing sword, and an archer's bow.
Far out.
Again, sounds terrible, but in the context of 2000 culture, this was a really fun ad before Tiger Woods had some
Yeah,
issues.
yeah, and he is in his prime, basically, at this point.
Exactly. So most ads aim to be funny and lighthearted, using catchy jingles and familiar faces of characters or celebrities. Visa's tagline for its Sydney campaign was "Have fun."
Alright.
Nike went in a different direction.
Okay.
Reebok had pulled out of its agreement with the IOC at the last minute, and
Wait,
Nike quick
they had an IOC partnership?
Reebok was supposed to be the sportswear sponsor, and they could not come to grips with the IOC.
Wow.
It was very fuzzy in what I found in why this happened, but Nike saw the opportunity, jumped in. The
Wow.
agreement between Nike and the IOC was signed in January of 2000. That's how fast they moved on this. And this was the first time Nike would have an official relationship with the Olympics. So now its ads could run during the Olympic broadcast in the US.
Wow. Hey, Michael Payne, we got questions for you.
And they, of course, created one centerpiece ad. And it debuted the ad the first weekend of the Olympics, which is September 16th and 17th. The ad titled Horror was created by ad agency Wyden and Kennedy, and there's multiple versions of it. The full ad is a minute long, and there were three 30-second edits, but they all basically tell the same story. American middle distance runner Susie Favor Hamilton is first seen alone in her house at night getting ready to take a bath. Suddenly, a masked man, like Jason from Friday the 13th slasher movies, appears in the reflection of her medicine cabinet mirror. He lunges at Susie wielding a chainsaw. Good thing Susie hasn't taken off her Nike running shoes. She dashes past him and runs into the woods. Scary man follows with chainsaw close behind. Susie screams and she crashes through branches with the constant hum of the chainsaw whirring through the night. She keeps running, wearing nothing more than her Nike sports bra, short shorts, and Nike shoes.
Wait, she is running through the woods,
Yes, being chased by Chainsaw Man.
probably through branches,
Yes,
and she's
nighttime
wearing a sports bra and shorts.
and Nike shoes.
Oh, yeah, 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 but still, all
Because
probably getting scratched up as well.
yes, because remember she was getting ready for a bath.
Right.
Okay.
In your traditional getting ready for a bath outfit.
So Chainsaw Man trips, stumbles, struggles. He starts to pant. Susie keeps going. Chainsaw Man can't keep up. He stops, takes off his mask, and tries to catch his breath. Then we get the tagline. Why sport? Because you'll live longer.
Whoa. That is a weird way to depict you'll live longer. It's so weird.
Do you remember this ad?
I have no recollection of this.
The reason I wanted to do this story is because I do remember this ad, and I remember seeing it and thinking, whose idea was this? And how is this gonna sell more running shoes? Well, I was not the only one. The backlash was swift and virulent. NBC and Nike were flooded with complaints. The ad was called stupid, repellent, ill conceived, misogynistic, tasteless, tacky, disgraceful, extreme, and worst of all, un-Olympic. Critics said it glorified violence against women, it was inappropriate for family friendly viewing, and it set back the cause of women in sport. Because remember, this is playing during the opening ceremony broadcast. And Nike pushed back, obviously, against the criticism, saying the ad was tongue in cheek. Michael Wilski, VP of marketing at Nike at the time, claimed the ad received huge numbers of emails from women in support of it, saying they got the joke. He went so far as to say that this kind of advertising show how equally Nike was treating its advertisements directed at women and men.
But I mean, like, the sports bra is at least very covering. It's not like
Right, there's nothing
it's
she's not overly sexualized in the
no.
sense of she's overly made up or in very
Yeah.
revealing clothes. I mean, it's definitely a play on those slasher movies of the
Yes.
'80s and '90s, and this was a classic scene, a girl getting ready for a bathtub, getting ready for a bath and the water running, and then you see the guy in the medicine cabinet. But geez, Nike, clear there was no women at that table when this
Right,
ad
right,
put
right.
together. So,
And
so far
I mean, the bigger question I have, did she run back to the house in time before the tub overflowed and ruined the floor?
So, Russell Davis, planning director at ad agency Wieden& Kennedy, said Susie Favor Hamilton is the victor, not the victim in this ad. And his quote does me in. So, this is from Russell Davis from Wieden& Kennedy. So, now women's sports are higher profile. They're much more on equal footing with men. And the advertising is starting to reflect that. In the last year or so, Nike has injected a lot more humor, a lot more playfulness in its treatment of women athletes. It treats Susie Hamilton pretty much the same as Andre Agassi. It's not a role model, go out and be like Susie kind of thing. It's more like we have athletes we love and we want to put them in our communication. I don't
Oh,
think Andre Agassi was ever half naked in a bathroom having a chainsaw wielded at him in a Nike ad. Just
no, no, it's showing him being super sporty usually.
so here's the perfect thing to sum this up. Longtime sports columnist for the Orlando Sentinel, Jerry Green, wrote how much he liked the ad. I
Okay.
thought it was funny. My wife hated it.
Oh, there you go.
So NBC bowed to the pressure and maybe found a little bit of good sense because they did ban the ad from air after that first weekend. Nike continued with other Nike continued with other spots in its Y Sports series, but those were more in line with traditional inspirational Olympic ads. And no athletes were murdered in those commercials
Well, Susie didn't get murdered either.
because she could run in her Nike
Right.
shoes.
Wow.
What struck me so much in all of this is how not far advertising of female athletes has come. Like, I could see this same controversy happening now,
I would agree with you on that.
but if you look at the commercial with the right eyes, you will laugh that this ever got off the boardroom table.
Maybe they just didn't have a lot of time, and this is the best they could come up with.
Yeah. Thankfully, Nike did get better as an advertiser at the Olympics over the years.
Well, didn't they have in 1996 that whole billboard controversy of, like, you lost gold you didn't win silver, you lost gold or something like that?
I
Like,
don't
ambush
remember
marketing?
I don't remember which Olympics it was, but yeah, they definitely there was you don't win silver, you lose gold.
So, they don't have a great track record,
So after
but
you
anyway.
watch the Susie Hamilton, Nike ad, just go watch the McDonald's ad with Grimace and Hamburglar, and you will feel so much better about yourself. That's the kind of criminal you should be putting in your advertising is Hamburglar,
Is a hamburger.
not Jason Slasher Chainsaw Man. Piece of advice as we're going into Milan. Leave out the serial killers, put in the cartoon characters.
True, true. And now advertising is different because a lot of it's streaming, so you have either short ads or, we have Mike and Maya from Tokyo 2020.
I will forever love Mike and Maya. Heart Hard hands.
That's right, that's right. Oh boy, oh boy. If you remember these commercials or if you're outside of the US and you have commercials that you remember from Sydney 2000, share those with us because I love seeing the stuff that's not in the US. It's always interesting to see how they target how different areas of the world think about the same event. So, yes, please share those with us. You can get at us on social. We're at Flame Alive Pod on Insta and X and Facebook. I'd think about that. And keep the Flame Alive podcast group on Facebook. And also, Flame Alive Pod at gmail.com is where you can hit us up or send us an email or send us a voicemail at 208 Flame It.
So sources for me are Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Guardian, The Washington Post, and Sports Business Journal.
Thank you. And sources for me were Inside the Games, International Blind Sports Association, International Federation of CP Football, International Paralympic Committee, and the National Paralympic Heritage Trust.
So should we make our big announcement now?
Yes, we should make our big announcement. Wait, do I have a drum roll? Our historical games for 2026 that we will be covering is
Cortina d'Ampezzo, 1956.
yes, that will be the 70th anniversary of those games, and 2026 will be the return to Cortina for some of Milano Cortina. So hopefully, knock on wood, that we're going to be able to get to Cortina. I'm really hoping, but we will hopefully be there to see what's left of the sites there and walk around and see what Cortina is like as a little village and explore some of the stories from those games. I'm very excited.
So no Paralympics for next year, because in
Yes.
1956 there were no Paralympics. This won by 2 votes.
Yes,
It
so
was
close.
close. I think the idea of the Italy connection is what swayed voters. Not that I took a poll, but this is my own personal.
Yeah, the Italy, and also that we're gonna be there and celebrating it. So what were those games like? So we are excited to be looking into the history of that and seeing stories that people don't remember for the very
We
first time.
certainly don't.
Weren't
We're
alive
not
then.
that old.
Oh, but we also have a reviewer comment of the week.
So this was a comment from YouTube from Claire Nettleton, 1945. Ladies, I look forward to you, my friends, every week. When I need a knowledgeable, friendly duo with a sense of humor, I turn to you. The giggles lift me up, and the coverage of all things Olympics and Paralympics is outstanding.
Thank you very much, Claire Nettleton, 1945. We appreciate you listening to the show. And if you would like to be featured in this segment, just drop us a review anywhere we're available on your podcast app right now. And we will hopefully feature you as well. So thank you so much, Claire. Your comments lift our spirits. And actually, it just makes me want to laugh a little bit more.
I wonder what people do think of our laughs, because I've always been made fun of for my laugh. So now I'm kind of curious, like how it sounds over in podcast
I
world.
have heard that when we are at the games and we hit the day where we lose it and we just can't stop
That's
cracking ourselves up, and it happened very quickly at Paris. It happened
I
so
think it
fast.
was day 2.
Yeah, usually we can make it to, like, day 7 before we just lose it. But, I've heard that's when we hit our breaking point, that
That's the
is
favorite episode of the Olympics. It's especially at the Olympics, because Paralympics, we seem to hang on, like, we've had that regrouping for 2 weeks,
right,
in
except for
between,
in
and
Beijing, we lost it over the putt-putt buses.
fair enough, but I don't think in Paris during the Paralympics we lost it, because
No,
we got to go back to the hotel and eat
yes.
and sleep and have air conditioning. So, we'll see what happens in Milan.
Oh,
This
boy.
could get interesting, because there's gonna be some putt-putt trains, Oh my god, if there's a train strike.
Well, we're stuck. Hopefully not on the side of a mountain.
And the other side of the mountain.
Don't want that either. So, all right, that is gonna do it for this episode. Next week, we will be back with more interviews and news from the games. So thank you so much for listening.
And until next time, keep the flame alive.